Hey y'all, I'm Brittany. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for joining me for another What's for Dinner. If you are new here and you've never seen a What's for Dinner, I basically share 3 recipes for 3 different meals that we've had throughout the week and let you know what we think of them. And if this is something you enjoy, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you get a notification every time that I upload. Alright, let's get started. So we'll jump right in, and the first meal that I'm gonna make is Mama's lasagna. This is literally how my mom taught me how to make it. I'm just going to start out by browning up about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of hamburger until it's cooked all the way through. Before I drain the grease, I'm gonna add in some onion powder, some garlic powder, salt and pepper, and just cook that a little bit longer. While my hamburger's finishing up browning on the stove, I have already brought a pot of water to a hard boil, and I'm gonna add in my lasagna noodles. If you do not want to cook noodles, you can absolutely use the oven ready. Now my noodles are still cooking on the stove, but my hamburger's done and I have drained it. So I'm just gonna transfer the meat into a large bowl to make my sauce mixture, which is just meat, my favorite spaghetti sauce, and a tub of cottage cheese. At this point, I'm going to stir really well to combine everything so we have a smooth, even sauce. Now I'm ready to assemble my lasagna. My noodles are done and my sauce is done. So I'm going to put a couple scoops of sauce in the bottom of my baking dish, and then I'll put a layer of noodles, and then I will layer my lasagna in this order. It will go noodles, sauce meat, shredded cheese. I like to use mozzarella and cheddar. Again, this is how I was taught to make it. And then I'll just repeat those same layers until I end out with the shredded cheese on top. Once I've finished putting all the cheese on my lasagna, I'm ready to put it in the oven to bake at 375 for about 40 to 45 minutes. I promise you, this sounds like the easiest, most simple lasagna recipe, but it's absolutely one of our favorites. Our next meal that we've decided to have is teriyaki chicken casserole. And I actually came across this recipe on Mandy and the Makin's YouTube channel. I will link her video in the description box down below, but this is so easy and so good. To go ahead and get this recipe started, I am making the homemade teriyaki sauce. I've already put 3/4 cup of soy sauce in my jar. I've added a 1/2 cup of water. I've added a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and now I'm adding a 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger, and I'm just gonna mix that to combine everything really well. Now that I have gotten everything mixed for the teriyaki sauce, I'm just going to pour it in my saucepan and turn my heat on to medium-high and let it warm through and come to a boil. Now I'm going to create a cornstarch slurry, and this is going to help thicken up my sauce. I've just added 2 tablespoons of water to 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and just mix that together really well, and then I'll pour it in my saucepan and stir it around to combine until my sauce mixture thickens up. So I've got my sauce done, my teriyaki sauce, and I'm going to go ahead and get the rice started before we get started on the chicken. I'm just adding 2 cups of water into a saucepan, and I'm going to add 1 cup of rice to this saucepan. This will give me, once it's cooked, about 3 cups of cooked rice. So while I have the rice on the stove cooking, I have already sprayed the bottom of my baking dish and put 6 thinly sliced chicken breasts. I'm doing 6 because I'm feeding a family of 5. And I'm pouring over 1 cup of the soy sauce that we made. And once that is done, I'm going to put that in the oven at 350 to bake for about 35 minutes. And then I'll pull it out and shred it. So while my rice is finishing up on the stove and I've got my chicken in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and get the stir fry ready. It's just a 20-ounce bag of frozen stir fry, and I'm going to put it in a microwave safe dish and follow the instructions on the back. So after 35 minutes, I've pulled my chicken out of the oven and I'm just shredding it with 2 forks. You can use a knife or however you choose to shred it. But I'm going to go ahead and add in my cooked rice, and I'll add in my stir fry vegetables and stir this all around and add another cup of the teriyaki sauce and put this all back in the oven to bake for another 15 minutes. Now, after the extra 15 minutes of bake time, it's ready to serve, and I'm just serving it up in these bowls. You can serve it however you choose. We did do egg rolls with ours, but I forgot to put that in the video. But once you have it dished up, you want to drizzle more of that teriyaki sauce over the top. This was really good. I recommend it. The last meal that we had for the week was the Pioneer Woman's Simple Perfect Chili. I have followed this recipe for probably 6 to 7 years, and it is a no-fail, and it works every time, and we love it. In my Dutch oven, I am browning up a pound of 93.7 lean hamburger, and once that is done and browned all the way through, there's not a lot of fat, but there's just enough that you can add in your minced garlic, and I'm going to do about a teaspoon of that and cook it around until it becomes fragrant. You don't want to burn it. To my hamburger and my garlic, I'm going to add in 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. And I will say this recipe does call for diced onion whenever you put the garlic in, but my family doesn't really care for that, so I don't add that. But I'm going to add in this 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, and then I'm going to add in all my spices, which is 2 tablespoons of chili powder, a teaspoon of oregano. I didn't have oregano, so I've just substituted with Italian seasoning. You want to add in a teaspoon of cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and a teaspoon of salt. Cook that around until everything is well combined. I've gotten all of the tomato sauce, the garlic, all the spices, and the hamburger meat all really well combined and cooked down a little bit. So now I'm adding in some water. I start out with about an 8 ounce to 12 ounces worth of water, and I usually end up with about 20 to 24 ounces that I've put in there. And I bring it to a boil and just let it cook down until it gets to that consistency that I like. Once all of the meat sauce has cooked down, I'm ready to add in my thickener, which is just a half a cup of water and a 1/4 cup of cornmeal. The Pioneer Woman calls for masa harina, but I don't have that and I don't know what that is. So this mixture is what I've done for years and it works perfect. But you just combine the cornmeal and the water together until it's smooth and pour it directly into your chili meat and just stir it around and let it get thick. Once my mixture has come up to the thickness that I like, I'm going to add in my canned beans, and it's just 2 cans of drained kidney beans. And typically it is 2 cans of pinto beans, but I was out of pinto beans, but I did have chili beans in my cabinet, so I'm just using those, but I'm not going to drain the chili beans. Now I'm going to go ahead and add all of my beans straight into my pot, and I'm going to turn the heat off and put the lid on and let this sit for 10 minutes and the beans cook all the way through, and then after the 10 minutes the chili's ready to serve. Now after the 10 minutes, I am just removing the lid and I'm going to go ahead and serve this. I typically like to serve this with cornbread, and my full intent was to make cornbread waffles, but I did not realize until I was in the middle of cooking that I am out of eggs. So I'm just going to dish this up in my bowl and top it like we normally would, which is with some shredded cheddar cheese. I like to do the triple cheddar or Monterey Jack. And then I'll put a dollop of sour cream on, and instead of cornbread this time, I just served with some crackers. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed these recipes, and hopefully you found something new to add to your family's rotation. And I hope you guys will join me for another What's for Dinner.